Concerns raised in Parliament on border security. Treasurer Patrick Pruach assures Papua New Guineans of a healthy economy. And police address the illegal sale of Papuan compound.
This is National EMTV News with Tokana Hasavi.
Good evening and welcome to Thursday's news. Papua New Guinea Defence Force soldiers manning our border posts are inadequately supported. They have no food, fuel and allowance to perform their duties. They are mostly supported by the governments of the provinces in which they are stationed in, with very little assistance from their headquarters.
The poor support system provided by the Papua New Guinea Defence Force has failed soldiers at our borders. They are continuously left without food, fuel and allowance to carry out their duties, depending entirely on provincial authorities. Western Governor Ati Wobiro raised this concern in Parliament today, following similar situations faced by soldiers at the Wiem border in Western Province.
Can the Honourable Minister assure the Honourable House that sufficient funds will be set aside in 2015 budget for a more permanent base in Wiem and a more reliable support system for the soldiers protecting our international borders?
Defence Minister Dr. Fabian Pork says the problem lies with the PNGDF system. There are two heads in charge, the commander who is in charge of the force, while the Defence Secretary is in charge of the finance. The commander only has to request for funding through the Secretary, who determines whether there is funding available to support PNGDF operations.
And the financial delegation rests with the Secretary of the Defence Force. And the commander can only request. And if the priorities are different, then sometimes soldiers do suffer.
Dr. Pork wants this review to allow the commander to be in charge of both the force and the finance. He says border operations are budgeted for, but failed to understand why funds are not readily available to support soldiers. Every year, the government allocates 30 million kina to the Papua New Guinea Defence Force. Much of this funding is used to maintain PNGDF facilities throughout the country, which has depleted for 30 years.
Command and control can only come when the soldiers are happy. And when the soldiers are happy, meaning that they must have proper uniforms, proper house to live, and so forth and so on. Like now, the tender process has been completed. In a few days, in a few weeks, we will be supplying to every household, Defence Force household in Papua New Guinea, one new fridge, one new stove, and one new washing machine.
Papua New Guinea Defence Force is building its manpower to reach its target of 5,000 men by 2017, with recruitments done every 6 months. This is in line with the government's objectives, and in so doing, the minister has called for more funding. Mickey Cavera, National EMTV News.
Papua New Guineans have been assured that the finances of the country are healthy and in good hands. This is the assurance by Treasury Minister Patrick Pruach in Parliament today when responding to questions on the state of the economy.
Question time today, Member for Rabaul Dr. Alan Marat asked the Treasurer to confirm whether the government's focus on borrowing would impact negatively on PNG's economy in the future.
What positives for the economy of Papua New Guinea have you gleaned from the economies of our major trading partners so that we do not suffer for the next 20 years?
Given the recent increase in borrowing by the current government, as well as criticism from various sectors regarding the government's debt levels, Minister Pruach was quick to defend the government's actions.
The main focus is to ensure that if we borrow, it's borrow for investment. And investment, Mr. Speaker, will assist the country insofar as job creation, insofar as growing the economy. So, Mr. Speaker, long borrowing, no compromising future revenue, block country. I think our government is clear. We borrow for investment purposes and not to compromise the future revenue of our country.
whilst acknowledging that the end of the construction phase of the PNG LNG project had contributed to a slowdown in the overall economy. Minister Pruiach reaffirmed the O'Neill Dion government's commitment to ensuring that the finances of the country were being managed through prudent fiscal strategies. Further indications of the state of the economy are expected to be highlighted in the 2015 national budget, which will be handed down in November. Meribatulo, National EMTV News.
2 people have been shot by police in attempts to disperse looters who tried to raid 7 shops that burnt overnight in Mount Hagen City. One of those killed is understood to be a high school student who was at the scene this morning when police opened fire. Police, defense and CS officers were called to the scene last night and have remained in the fire scene for the last 15 hours in efforts to prevent hundreds of looters from taking advantage of the situation. The fire is understood to have started in a popular restaurant in the heart of the city. As the night drew on, more buildings were consumed by the flames. Buildings including Chemica, Highlands Pokies and Yoshi's second-hand shop were destroyed in a space of 4 hours. Activist Noel Anjo was stopped by police officers from staging a rally to the Parliament House this morning on the issue of police brutality and the recent events in the police department. The activist said a group of police officers alleged to be drunk surrounded him at the Unagi Oval and ordered him not to start the rally.
So once we talk to stop and one by one, I think we counted 15 vehicles. And then once all police will come out, oh, the policemen were, most of them were drunk. They come out, wanted beer, and then even start swearing. And I get up and I told them, hey, wait, no lunch, we are trying to stage a protest. Why are you trying to petition the Prime Minister? Behavior of policemen too. It's criminal in nature. The issues that we are trying to petition the police is very sensitive, and like anything regarding to only question emails like when something happened law number police force, yet all no can expect, oh, maybe like some administrative things we cannot, but we don't go in details but we're looking at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is we don't want the police force to fight among themselves, and we don't want a division in the police force.
Meanwhile, Metropolitan Superintendent Andy Bauer told EMTV News that his office and the police commissioners were aware of the protest. Mr. Bauer said orders were given to NCD police to monitor the rally and keep it under confines of the law. However, Mr. Bauer said he will not comment on the actions of the alleged drunk officers who stopped Mr. Anjo. Lawyer Sam Bonner has clarified issues surrounding the warrant of arrest against Prime Minister Peter O'Neill. Mr. Bonner said there is a stay order in place and no police officers, including the Commissioner, have the power to enforce the arrest at this stage. On the other hand, police officers who assaulted him at the courthouse in July this year were arrested and charged by police yesterday.
Interview with Mr. Bonner, he clarifies that 2 separate stay orders are in place preventing the arrest of Prime Minister Peter O'Neill and Finance Minister James Marape. The stay orders restrain members of the police force, including the Commissioner, to make any arrest of the 2 leaders until the court determines the legality of the warrant and all related matters. Mr. Bonner said members of the fraud squad that goes around serving warrants must be careful of contempt. He said the fraud members are subjected under the Commissioner's office and must respect and protect its integrity.
So no arrest should be made. All parties should remain on foot, leave the status quo to remain as it is, and then until the final determination of the court of law, based on the Supreme Court decision.
Mr. Bonner further clarified that police officers providing security to Prime Minister and other ministers are not taking sides but play their duties as an administrative instructions from the Commissioner. Until the judicial review of all processes and legality of the warrants are handed down by the court, there is no administrative power to grant the arrest. Mr. Bonner asked the police and all people to be quiet and await the court rulings.
Respect the rule of law and let the courts deal with it.
Meanwhile, EMTV understands that 4 members of the fraud squad that assaulted Mr. Bonner on July 16th at the National Court premises in Port Moresby were arrested and charged yesterday. One of the assailants was recently attacked on Sunday by his colleague. Quintan Alomp, National EMTV News.
A 3-man Supreme Court bench has granted an interim injunction against the arrest of Prime Minister Peter O'Neill. Included in the decision are temporary stay orders against any form of violence, harassment and intimidation of Mr. O'Neill, his legal representatives, security unit, their families and staff members. This latest court decision is expected to see a simmering down of resentments between 2 main groupings of police who have been at loggerheads over contempt issues surrounding the initial arrest warrant on the Prime Minister. The court refused a verbal application to join the hearing made by lawyers representing Investigation Task Force Sweep Chairman Sam Coyne and Anti-Corruption Director Matthew Damaro. And until the courts decide otherwise, Mr. O'Neill cannot be arrested. You're watching National EMTV News tonight. Lae Seaport is an area of concern as the threat of Ebola increases. That story among headlines in the news from Lae after the break. Good to have you back with the news. It may have been the pothole city once, but that name is slowly changing for Lae City. More money being pumped into the Lae City new roads are slowly taking shape. In the new city centre, the aging asphalt is being replaced with concrete. The drainage is being improved and traffic congestion is easing in some areas. Outside the city, the initial phase of construction is well underway on the Lae to Nazab 4-lane highway being built by the China Railway Company. At 6 Mile, major filling work is being carried out on the edge of the main road where the new lanes will run. Police power poles have been relocated, and soon residents will also be relocated for the road expansion. Lae City could be the most vulnerable to Ebola when vessels berth at its port, bringing on board crews and cargoes from all over the world. The industrial hub hosts the biggest port in the country, and it could become the entry point for the killer virus. Medical officers says while the focus will be on Port Moresby's Jackson's International Airport, plans need to be made for the Lae port as well.
Lae's medical professionals, including an expatriate doctor from the private health sector, say the threat at the wharf is real. It's understood that vessels come into Lae carrying cargo from all over the world and aren't being quarantined. The health experts fear that the killer virus might slip into the country from the vessels. The threat of the Ebola crisis reaching our shore is still very high. Without a cure, countries around the world continue to be on full alert. Papua New Guinea expects to get assistance from the World Health Organization and the Australian government if there is an outbreak. But health experts in the country have explained that a full-scale quarantine contingency plan is needed for the Lae port. They say it's going to be expensive to carry out. The facility needs to be mobile, and those working in it will need the right gear. The concerns raised by medical officers comes after Australian health officials announced that there will be a delay for 2 weeks before Australia's rapid response team is ready to deal with outbreaks in the Asia-Pacific, including PNG. That delay should come as a wake-up call for Papua New Guinea authorities to start drawing contingency plans to assist the Australians. Deputy Opposition Leader Sam Basil has already called on the national government and health department to prepare facilities outside of Port Moresby to contain the potential threat of the Ebola virus.
It's very dangerous also to the health workers. They will be exposed, so proper gears are needed, proper advice and training should start now for the health workers that will be used to contain the situation. We are all concerned, I am concerned. As a parliamentarian, I want the health minister and the prime minister to come out clear on this. It's not a political issue that we will throw mud at each other.
Basil will be meeting with health officials to make plans to restrict the movement of people to his Bulolo district if the killer virus hits PNG. Bethany Harriman, National EMTV News, Lae.
Youths from the West Taraka community in Lae City today surrendered their homebrew equipment to police. This move comes after numerous instances of petty crimes and killings were reported in the community this year. Youth leaders have called for more support from the community and police to eradicate homebrew production.
Petty crimes and fights have resulted in lives being lost, and several men and women have become victims. The latest was the killing of a man last week, which prompted community leaders to mobilize to stop the consumption and selling of homebrew in West Taraka. Former West Taraka councillor Peter Wagu and community leaders joined forces with the police and called on youths to surrender their homebrew producing equipment. The move seemed quite difficult for many residents in the community, but it is a step in the right direction, community leaders said. For women and girls, it was a long-awaited move.
That person you make him here, me like him display me wait long pla time. Now you saw him here, and bell me kiss him belly sin and me one bell.
These gas cylinders were used to produce homebrew alcohol. There are up to 20 homebrew producers in the community, and youth leaders have called on them to surrender the equipment. For the past 15 years, West Taraka has been known as one of the notorious communities in Lae City. The lack of law and order has seen little business and government presence in the area. However, the community is doing all it can to contain the lawlessness and other problems it has.
All community ready, lo put in full force, lo supporting backside lo government lo working this law operation lo rousing steam. But 1:1 is the ratio lo government in now.
The Lord Mayor has called on the police minister to look at increasing policeman power and ammunition at community police stations in Lae. The presence of 4 policemen at the West Taraka police station is not enough to contain a population of over 10,000 people in the community. Sylvester Gawi, National EMTV News, Lae.
The increase in bus fares on public transport from 50 toa to 1 kina or 1 kina to 2 kina by bus line operators in Port Moresby is becoming a norm. This is a daily occurrence, especially in the afternoons, leaving many Gerehu and Waigani residents frustrated. However, bus operators said they are forced to charge more in the afternoons to compensate the amount of time they spend in the mornings in traffic jams.
It's the same for passengers traveling from Gordons to downtown, downtown to Kanudi, or Gordons to Atheist. The normal fare for an adult passenger traveling from Gordons to Atheist is 1 kina. But in the afternoons, passengers traveling to the same destination are requested to pay 2 kina, 3 kina, or even 5 kina.
So to sa lo kam so normally we place pay me extra because also thinking no fuel side loan.
This has become an extra expenditure, and many average earners cannot afford to pay more every day. But some bus operators are blaming the traffic congestions in the mornings and afternoons as the root cause of them not making enough money.
One day me bla some 2-3 hours me bla some time. So me bla work money time me bla abros na me bla tasim all people long big money long 3 kina 2 kina ko kam long gori 3 kina na 9 mali ko woni me magan mo bem 2 kina so maybe making all people like bankrupt.
Speaking of camera, another bus operator told EMTV News that getting double fares from passengers in the afternoons is a fast way of making money.
To make a little bit of money. At the end of the day, we don't make money.
Meanwhile, the general public has also raised concerns on bus operators not completing their designated routes. Taklagunga, National EMTV News.
Lae City has seen a rise in traffic accidents over the last 12 months. This morning, a PMV bus crashed into a water truck along the Markham Road. Traffic was delayed for almost 3 hours as vehicles waited for the blockage to be cleared. Traffic congestion and bad driving have been blamed for the accident. Rimbunan Hijau today opened the new tyre and auto service opposite the Vision City Mega Mall. The opening also signifies the first ever HR mobile fuel service station in the country. Executive Director Nathaniel Ho said RH will not stop its expansion, saying the company will embark on their initiatives, which include a new shopping mall at 8 Mile in the nation's capital. Mr. Horst said the company has a significant stand in the country and will continue to give back to the people of PNG its services. The fuel station is the first world-class fuel station in the country that has pit stop signs to show customers the prices of fuel and promotional packages on sale there. And now we check out the finance news. The kina closed 5 points lower at $0.3965 in the interbank market, and at Bank South Pacific, the kina was buying $0.3895, $0.4389 Australian dollars, €0.2998 euro, and 41.27 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, copper closed higher, gold, coffee and cocoa closed lower. Palm oil closed higher, crude oil and copper closed lower. And finally, on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 153 points lower, the ASX closed at 2 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed the day unchanged. Stay tuned to National EMTV News. A soldier is murdered and the gunman shot inside Parliament. We'll bring you that report from Canada after the break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas now, there's been terror on the streets of Ottawa after a deadly siege forcing parts of Canada's capital into lockdown for more than 10 hours. A gunman shot dead a soldier at the city's war memorial and then stormed Parliament's house before dying in a hail of bullets.
It's our fear too, but today it's Canada's reality. A bloody attack on two of the country's most treasured emblems, the National War Memorial, where a soldier from the Honour Guard was killed.
There is a shooter on the loose. Please move back.
And then, only a short distance away, an assault into the very heart of the National Parliament, where MPs hid behind barricades as police and Secret Service agents hunted the killer, then cornered him in a central corridor and shot him dead in a barrage of gunfire. He was Canadian-born Muslim convert Michael Zihaf Bibo. In his trail lay the body of Honour Guard soldier Nathan Cirillo, shot at almost point-blank range. This photo of him on the left and a fellow soldier was taken just minutes before he died. The attack on him at the War Memorial came at 9:52 in the morning, the gunman there for just brief seconds, firing, then either driving or running less than half a kilometre to the centre block of the three-fronted building that makes up the National Parliament. This dashcam from a passing motorist shows a man in black climbing into the driver's seat of a car with no rear number plate. But reports of how the gunman went from the memorial to the Parliament varied wildly in the first hours after the shooting. One witness described the chaos.
Third shot and then fourth shot and then he just took off.
Another told of running towards the gunfire.
I heard four gunshots, and I turned around and rushed to the War Memorial and saw a young man, clearly a soldier. He was lying down on the ground. He had been shot multiple times.
A police officer then told him he'd seen the gunman.
Put a rifle on his shoulder, took aim, and clearly made a targeted shooting of one of the two members of the Honour Guard.
You know, I yelled at all my guys. There's guys shooting, so everyone, get down, get down.
Emergency services raced to the War Memorial.
We may have multiple patients. One soldier has been hit.
Some accounts say the gunman had an accomplice as he headed to the Parliament. The building was full of MPs and their staff. Inside the chamber, some members of Parliament barricaded themselves in, blocking doors with chairs, while heavily armed police and a rapid reaction military team threw an iron cordon around the building. Government members were heading to a meeting when the attack erupted.
Security ran in and began to scream, "Get out, get out." There were a volley of gunshots. The gunfire was out there. They could smell the gunpowder.
Yeah, I was just taking off my jacket to go into caucus. I hear this pop, 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 possibly 10 shots. Don't really know. Thought it was dynamite or construction rather than anything else.
Reporter Josh Wingrove was caught up in the crossfire.
So we heard gunshots come up from there, and sort of ducking my head down the hallway, you saw the smoke from gunfire. You could smell it almost instantly.
The man believed to have finally shot the gunman is 58-year-old Parliamentary Sergeant-at-Arms Kevin Vickers. Adding to the confusion and alarm, reports soon proved to be false of more gunfire in a nearby shopping centre. Zihaf Babo, the 32-year-old dead gunman, had recently had his passport confiscated by Canada's security forces after being designated a high-risk traveller suspected of being radicalised since his religious conversion.
We will not be intimidated. Canada will never be intimidated. In fact, this will lead us to strengthen our resolve and redouble our efforts, and those of our national security agencies, to take all necessary steps to identify and counter threats and keep Canada safe here at home.
Obviously, we're all shaken by it. It emphasizes the degree to which we have to remain vigilant when it comes to dealing with these kinds of acts of senseless violence or terrorism.
Today's attack comes in the same week a Canadian soldier was killed in a hit and run in Quebec, again the target of a radicalised Muslim convert. And it came as Canadian war jets flew off to join the growing coalition battle against ISIL forces in Syria and northern Iraq.
We intend to significantly degrade the capabilities of ISIL.
A Canadian involvement that comes on the heels of a decade-long role as well in Afghanistan. Like its American neighbour south of the border, Canada has now had an alarming encounter with extremism. A threat Australia has also had to confront.
And that's a take on our news segment tonight. We've got True Guy Sports coming up next, including a big lineup of the BSP PNG Games. That's coming up after the break. Stay with us.
True Guy Sports.
BSP PNG Games 2014. 23 days to go. Support your province.
National carrier Air Niugini today announced a 30% discount for all athletes and officials travelling to Lae for the 6th BSP PNG Games next month. An agreement was signed with the PNG Sports Foundation to assist with airfares for over 7,000 participants.
Sports Foundation Executive Director Peter Chamalili Jr., when signing the agreement, said that with the difficulties in logistics experienced from the last PNG Games in Kokopo, bringing on board the airline would ensure travel to and from Lae was orderly. He said there would be systems in place to ensure that only those accredited athletes and officials will benefit from this special airfare.
Accreditation room in Lae. The list that comes out from the accreditation room is the list that Air Niugini is going to operate with.
Air Niugini's General Manager for Customer and Markets, Dominic Kaumu, said Air Niugini was working closely with the Games and adhering to its obligation as a service provider.
We have an obligation to the people of this country in offering the affordable airfares to enable athletes from around the country to participate in the Games.
The 30% discount will apply to the purchase of return tickets and is valid for a month from the date of purchase.
In the outports, in all the ports, have been briefed. We'll brief them again on what the protocols are for uplifting all the contestants and the support staff.
The PNG Sports Foundation is urging all provinces to finalize the teams and ensure they are all accredited. This accreditation list will be sent to Air Niugini so flights can be scheduled for all athletes and officials to be in Lae before the opening ceremony on Sunday, November 16. Efata Samuel, National EMTV Sports.
Team Southern Highlands received a cheque of 200,000 kina from a local construction company, Oceanic Construction. The presentation is to enable their participation at the BSP PNG Games. The presentation was made at a news conference yesterday.
Team manager for Team Southern Highlands, Paul Yakira, held a media conference with district administrators, sports coordinators and sponsor Oceanic Construction to discuss its final stages of team selections, uniforms and the fundraising dinner for Team Southern Highlands. Yakira thanked sponsors Oceanic Construction for their support and assistance towards Team Southern Highlands and for donating 200,000 kina.
Current team ko mula to thank you again long sponsor sabe molumi bin awesome like part paying accommodation. I mean due on Friday but it stepped in on Thursday and pay for Team Southern Highlands.
Oceanic Construction owner Sape Molumi said he was proud to help Team Southern Highlands, especially the athletes who will represent them at the 6th BSP PNG Games next month.
We are covering the whole province and all of the line of people of Southern Highlands. So not only for this time, but we also committed on other sports. Now at least we have to give back something to the people in terms of sports and all this. So,
District Administrator Joe Kayo also gave his thanks to Oceanic Construction for their generous support of their contribution of 200,000 kina. He said this money will go a long way and will be used by Team Southern Highlands for all sports-related expenses.
To put all the efforts together to bring a team that will perform to their best and hopefully bring some rewards and honors back home to Southern Highlands.
Team Southern Highlands will participate in 11 sporting codes and will have up to 400 athletes and officials to lay to compete in the PNG Games in November. A team is already in host city Ley, organizing accommodation for their athletes. Their fundraising dinner will be held tonight at the Dynasty Restaurant in Port Moresby. Godwin Eki, National, EMTV Sports.
Coined the Golden Village because of Commonwealth success, Hanua Bada in the National Capital District saw some special visitors as members of Team PNG joined the local youths for fellowship. The visit had been organized by a high-performance trainer and former Vipers halfback from Hanua Bada, Toya Kohu, in a bid to get more support for PNG athletes.
Asked to attend as part of the community's youth outreach program, invited representatives from different sporting codes took part in fellowship with a short prayer led by student pastor Percy Rarua.
Well, if you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit.
Speaking about the parables of Jesus, Pastor Rarua spoke of the vine and the branches, a connotation of relationships from an origin. While a little bit was lost in translation, the representatives were nonetheless thrilled to be a part of it. Each of the members of the small delegation were introduced to the villagers. Tom Frost, high-performance trainer for Team PNG, was first up. Introductions done, the main activities began. Netballers and sisters Lua and Winnie Mavra, along with Pepe's assistant coach Margaret Opina, were grouped together. PNG Amwa volleyball vice-captain Lois Garena, along with coach Marty Collin, formed another group as well. Other groups included swimmer Hannah Elave, boxer Rafaela Kaure, and Kumu strength and conditioning coach Aroa Ben Moide. Each of them had an interesting message to give. Commonwealth champion Dikator was also present, passing along words of encouragement as well. Team PNG, in its bid to make 2015 a success, is banking on its high-performance program to vastly improve the performance of its athletes and coaches, although spirituality and mental strength is also key to winning, with the brief outreach session confirming that. Lorraine Genia, National, EMTV Sports.
PNG's elite runner Simbe Kaspar blitzed home with a record of 39 minutes and 12 seconds to settle into 5th spot in the 2014 10-kilometer run along the PNG-Indonesia border. Indonesian runner Septinus Kadam was the champion with a record of 35 minutes and 25 seconds. While PNG runner Vanessa Yaro took out the student category, she was awarded a trophy and prize money of 1,700 kina. Indonesian consul Jahar Gultom commended the enthusiasm shown by the students to participate in the event. Sundown Provincial Administrator Henry Norm expressed satisfaction and saluted the efforts committed by both provinces to end the event on a high note. The presentation was held at Batas Market on the Indonesian side of the border. And True Kai Sports continues after these short messages. Stay tuned.
True Kai Sports.
Welcome back to True Kind Sports. Papua New Guinean creative industries company Makota Productions has bold plans in place for the opening and closing ceremonies of the 2015 Pacific Games. Incorporating Papua New Guinea's rich and cultural diversity with the Games, Managing Director for Makota Productions, Tanya Nugent, will be working in alliance with internationally renowned Artistic Director Nigel Jamieson and Marion Hughes as Executive Producer. Tanya and her team are aiming to produce the first of its kind grand opening and closing ceremonies in Papua New Guinea.
Papua New Guinea's rich cultural diversity remains a focal identity of our nation and our people, as it remains a significant part of our upbringing. Managing Director of Makota Productions, Tanya Nugent, and her team will be incorporating PNG's culture with the opening and closing of the Games next year. While much of it remains a mystery, Tanya gave a sneak peek of what to expect.
Ceremonies are central to every village and every clan and every language group. So we're taking this very much as a ceremony as well. So in every step of the way, with every dance we use, with every costume we put in, we are following traditional protocols.
While it is a bonus to the people of Papua New Guinea to use this event as a platform to display their colourful culture, it's also a challenge for Tanya and her team.
That's exactly the objective, is to not just portray our country for its traditional cultures, which is just mind-blowing and phenomenal, and our artistic team that we've brought in from overseas to work with us and collaborate with us have never experienced or seen anything like this before.
The Makota Productions team will be travelling to Boira village tomorrow as part of their drive to associate the Motuan culture with the Games. Lorraine Genia, National EMTV Sports.
Two members from the Tonga Pacific Games visited the country to see preparations for the 2015 Pacific Games. Chairman Lord Fred Sevele and Secretary General for Tonga Olympics Committee Tikatoa Tomapue met with the PNG Olympics Committee to get first-hand information on our preparations. Tonga will host the 2019 Pacific Games.
Visiting Papua New Guinea and to see its current preparations for the 2015 Pacific Games were two-man delegation from the Tonga 2019 Pacific Games. Chairman Lord Fred Sevele and Secretary General for Tonga Olympics Committee Takitoa Tamoea Peau, who met with the PNG's Olympics Committee to get an understanding of the amount of work involved in the planning of the Games facilities. While in the country, the two delegation also met with Chief Executive Officer for 2015 Pacific Games Organizing Committee Peter Stewart to get a general overview of the current status and preparations towards the Pacific Games. Both men were impressed of the amount of work put into the planning and preparations towards the 2015 Pacific Games. CEO Peter Stewart said he was pleased to pass on what was learnt over the past 2.5 years to our colleagues in Tonga. He said every Pacific Games hopes to build on the experiences of the previous Games. The two men were accompanied by Games Organizing Committee while visiting different competition venues in and around Port Moresby. The delegation was surprised to see the amount of work in progress on their visit, and they said they will return again with a bigger group of members from the 2019 Pacific Games and their government representatives to get an appreciation of the final touches and preparations before the actual Games in July 2015. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
SB Brewery today announced its 2015 Pacific Games Gold Athletes programs with the announcement of 3 elite athletes under the funding of 1 million kina. The first elite athletes to go under the funding of the Gold Athletes program funding are Betty Burua, Abigail Tere Apisa and Jack Vuyafa. The program officers selected elite athletes to obtain financial assistance relating to training, coaching and other sports-related matters. It is through this program that SB Brewery is showing its commitment in supporting PNG's best elite athletes for the 2015 Pacific Games. The home of the Digicel Cup reigning kings, Hela Province, is looking at localizing the code of rugby league to all households. With the success of the Hela Wigmen in this year's Digicel Cup campaign, the province is now looking at young players as they prepare to enter the next season. Chairman of the Hela Rugby League, Rex Humbi, said to kick off their inter-district rugby league competition. The players taking part in the competition have a shot at making it into the Hela Wigmen.
The affection of the game can be seen on all their faces. The Ella province is not different to other provinces who took to heart the game of rugby league. With the Digital Cup on hand, the province is looking at staging an inter-district league competition. The three electorate of Ella province, Koraba Kopiago, Komomagarima and Taripori, will bring the best from their local competitions.
Select the build-up for the Hela Weekman 2 and to put into camp at least 30 or 40 players who are going to be identified and selected throughout this process.
Rex Umbi is also the president of the Tari Rugby League Association. He is banking on the services of both unsung and elite rugby league players in the Ella Wigman Club and from the local competitions.
The team we are expecting right now and planning for is 8, but the maximum we can go as far as is 12.
The invitation is extended to players from outside. Students from the University of Goroka and Kainantu are expected to participate. And who could have thought of going past the ecstatic local guns that are capable of showing off their style of footy despite being on a drizzling weather.
The selectors must have the best of the best to come out from all those regions, especially since we got this cup to defend and Papua New Guinea has got the eyes since we came in only the second year of the competition.
The competition will commence next month and into Christmas period before coming into final early next year, just in time for the 2015 Digital Cup season. Tere Alex, National EMTV Sports.
Papua New Guinea's sporting excellence has extended to the shores of Australia. Norman Vanua and Tony Ura from Papua New Guinea have scored game time with Melbourne Cricket Clubs, Greenvale, Essendon and the Northern Cricket Club. With a touch of Pacific flavour, the Greenvale Cricket Club is hoping to climb the ranks in the Premier Cricket, becoming one of the stronger teams in the competition.
There is a Pacific flavour to Melbourne Premier Cricket this season, with Papua New Guinea's very own Norman Vanua and Tony Ura joining the Greenvale Cricket Club. The Greenvale Kangaroos have benefited immensely with the addition of Norman and Tony, as well as Vanuatu's up-and-coming Nalin Nipiko.
In completely different styles, just from watching the Papua New Guinea fellows today, just completely different. Norman bowls a really heavy ball, and Tony's soft.
Shortly after touchdown in Melbourne, the boys got stuck into training with the rest of the team, and although this isn't their first time playing club cricket in Australia, they have yet a lot of things to learn.
Try to be more consistent, basically, because over the past few weeks I haven't been bowling the consistent line and length, so trying to work on that and try to learn to play in different cultures and stuff like that.
Complementing PNG's cricketers abroad in Melbourne, Nalin Nipiko is recognised amongst the bunch for his fast bowling and powerful stroke play. With the inclusion of Papua New Guineans Norman and Tony alongside Vanuatu brethren Nalin, the Greenvale Cricket Club are entering this year's season with the hope of increasing their ranking in Premier Cricket.
Nalin's been around for a few weeks and extremely popular member. He doesn't say much, but an extremely popular member, and everybody's taken with the way that he fields and his athleticism. And we're all hoping that he can take a wicket, and one that we've seen on YouTube with him doing 14 somersaults. So we're waiting for that one. I'm sure that's in the kit bag at some stage.
In Kenya, National EMTV Sports.
And that wraps up Trukai Sports tonight. Coming up next, the weather details. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
This weather information is proudly brought to you by Tablebirds.
The weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in southern region, Port Moresby evening brief showers is likely. In Momase, all centres fine except Ley City to expect showers overnight. In New Guinea Islands, a few thundery showers expected in Buka and Rabaul. And lastly, in the Highlands region, all centres brief showers overnight, then morning fog. Well, that's been National EMTV News this Thursday, the 23rd of October. From the news team, I'm Tokana Hasabi. You take care and stay safe. Good night.